where you scream, don't watch that, watch this, and I'll dive down through this hairy flesh.
Hi, and welcome to Watch This. I'm CJ Johnson. Today I've got reviews of 4 movies for you. 2 of them are nominated for major Oscars, and the other 2 are in cinemas around Australia and worldwide at the moment. I'm going to be reviewing Manchester by the Sea, Toni Erdmann, Gold, and Perfect Strangers. Manchester by the Sea. Let's have a review.
What happened to my brother?
So that's the Lee Chandler.
I don't understand.
Which part are you having trouble with?
Well, I can't be his guardian.
Well, your brother provided for your nephew's upkeep. I think the idea was that you would relocate.
You may have heard that Kenneth Lonergan's Oscar-nominated third feature as writer-director, Manchester by the Sea, is very, very sad. What you may not have heard is that, for the vast majority of its running time, it is very, very funny. Lonergan, an established playwright as well as filmmaker, can write, and he can write killer dialogue. Manchester by the Sea has an intricate, complicated, extremely well-crafted structure, a thematically rich story covered with depth and sensitivity, but it also boasts absolutely wonderful back-and-forth banter that is always witty and sometimes hilarious. In fact, it's far funnier than most of the comedies released over the last few years. This banter mainly occurs between Lee Chandler, played by Casey Affleck, and his teenage nephew Patrick, played by Lucas Hedges. Patrick's dad, played by Kyle Chandler, that last name is just weirdly coincidental, that's Lee's older brother, has died from his chronic heart condition, and he and Lee are coming to terms with their grief and each other, as Lee has been named Patrick's guardian in his brother's will. They get along terrifically, in fact, but Lee has other grief in his not-too-distant past, the kind shredded and studded with suffocating guilt, and he is spiky and disoriented, removed slightly from the real world, ajar and adrift. Instant fatherhood was not on his agenda, but somehow he has to make it work, not only because he loves his nephew, but also because his brother, by all accounts an extremely decent man, was very much his best friend. I had this strange impression that Manchester by the Sea may be composed of endless scenes of a dreary mope, but that is so not the case. Besides the many firecracker scenes between Affleck and Hedges, both are superb, and similarly excellent scenes involving Affleck and Michelle Williams as his wife, C.J. Wilson as his brother's best friend, and many other inhabitants of the titular Massachusetts town, all played by excellent actors, there are scenes that simply follow Patrick's storyline, leaving Lee off-screen, doing his own thing. It's a wider, broader, bigger film than its marketing may suggest, crackling with energy, pace, and dramatic heft. It's also stunningly beautiful. The seaside locations are exquisitely shot by Jody Lee Leaps. Massachusetts is rendered simultaneously realistically, cold, old, ornery, and somewhat idealistically, the bounteous water and highway-side forests sparkling with crisp winter light. The music, a combination of original compositions by Leslie Barber and well-used classical pieces, is bold and rich, edging the visuals into poetic mini-montages that consistently punctuate the very human drama. The production design, while never drawing attention to itself, is flawless. I personally know Massachusetts very well, and this is Massachusetts. Manchester by the Sea is a great film. It is thoroughly involving, deeply moving, and sparkles with humanity. Highly recommended, and my favourite of the big Oscar contenders for 2016.
Hello?
Hello, Lee? I just want to call and say I'm sorry. How's Patrick doing?
Well, he doesn't really open up with me. Do you actually have sex with these girls?
Strictly basement business.
What does that mean?
It means I'm working on it.
Now, speaking of the Oscars and Manchester by the Sea, let me just tell you about Casey Affleck and his chances for the Best Actor Oscar at the upcoming Oscars. The other day, Denzel Washington won the Screen Actors Guild Award for Best Actor, and he would certainly, I reckon, be Casey Affleck's main competition for the Oscar. The reason this is significant is that there are around 6,000 voting members of the Academy, and of those, the largest voting block is the acting block. Now, that comprises about 1,200 of the Academy members. By contrast, there's only 377 members who are in the directing block. So the acting block is the biggest, and every single member of the acting block is a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and they voted for Denzel Washington. Therefore, ipso facto, the largest block voted for Denzel will again vote for Denzel at the Oscars. Therefore, the fact that Denzel won the Screen Actors Guild Award means that all of a sudden he's actually kind of the front runner for the Oscar instead of Casey Affleck. See how that math works out? So there you go. The other thing that people have been asking me about is why isn't Casey Affleck getting more flack for this thing in his past about these lawsuits that he settled with a couple of women who came forward against him based on his behavior during the filming of a movie he directed called I'm Not There? And why was there so much flack given to Nate Parker about some similarly settled rape suits that came against him when his film Birth of a Nation was in the awards mix and subsequently got drowned out of it because of these allegations? Well, let me tell you my theory. Nate Parker was involved essentially in allegations of rape while he was at college. Casey Affleck was essentially accused of what amounts to sexual harassment during the shooting of a film. All the folks in Hollywood can relate to one and not the other, because very few people actually have rape during college allegations in their past. But the casting couch has existed in Hollywood since Hollywood began. In other words, I would warrant you that over 95% of the directors who vote for the Oscars have at some point in their past been a little sleazy with the women on their film sets, whereas very few of them have actually been accused of raping people in college. See the difference? It's a case of only those not being in glass houses throwing stones, and I would suggest that what Casey Affleck has been accused of lurks in the background of a whole lot of people in Hollywood, and that's why a whole lot of people in Hollywood are not calling him out on it. Toni Erdmann is nominated for the Best Foreign Language feature film at the upcoming Oscars.
Hallo Papa.
Hallo, wie geht's?
Ja, sehr gut eigentlich. Sie telefoniert nur. Ich bin gleich fertig.
Ich habe jetzt jemand engagiert als Ersatztochter.
Naja, das ist ja gut. Dann ruft sie dich auch zum Geburtstag an und so. Dann mache ich mir da keinen Stress mehr.
German filmmaker Maren Ade takes her time with her dramatic comedy Toni Erdmann. It's an enormously rewarding work, but at 2 hours and 42 minutes, it demands you surrender to its rhythm. Ines, the incredible Sandra Hüller, who in a more just world would be nominated for Best Actress at the upcoming Oscars, she is not, is an overworked, overstressed young executive for a German international consulting firm currently posted in Bucharest. When her eccentric father Winifred's dog dies, he pays her a surprise visit and, worried about her, goes to odd lengths to cheer her up, including assuming an alternative persona. The film is a superb and deeply layered examination of the special relationship between fathers and daughters, to which, on that level, I could relate and surrender myself. I've got a daughter. However, it's much more than that. In its extended scenes of the delicate dance of somewhat dubious business in Eastern Europe, it examines the ongoing misogyny inherent in corporate life, the use of corporate fall guys in the guise of consultancy firms that take the blame for mega corporations for cash, and the blatant exploitation of Euro-struggling nations by wealthy ones. In fact, there's a perfect moment when Ines, having just made this important presentation in an upscale hotel's business centre, stares out the window at a household across the road that doesn't seem to have any electricity. Peter Simonischek, a prolific and revered German TV star who normally presents as a handsome silverback, lets it all hang out as Winifred, a true eccentric whose empathetic wisdom is buried under layers of diffidence. He and Hula play off each other superbly, often in extended moments of awkward silence. The entire film is full of awkward moments, awkward scenes, awkward lives. It won't be for everyone, and please do not go expecting a gazillion yucks, but by its end, it is thoroughly engaging, moving, and meaningful. A major film with a lot on its mind. It's highly recommended.
Ist irgendwie ein bisschen glücklich hier?
Schwören jetzt ganz schön viele Begriffe rum hier, ne? Spaß, Glück, Leben. Was findest denn du lebenswert?
Ja, da muss man das noch machen und dies und währenddem geht das Leben einfach vorbei.
Well, Matthew McConaughey is probably pissing you off right at the moment by what he's said about Donald Trump, but let's remove that and talk about his latest film, Gold.
Yeah, for better or worse, the ride had begun. And what a ride.
I never doubted you for a second.
What do you call the genre that encompasses American Hustle, The Wolf of Wall Street, and Blow? I suppose you could go with Rags to Riches, or even more accurately and more often, Rags to Riches to Rags. But there's a certain style and tone to these movies that links them besides their celebration and evisceration of the American dream. And that tone is cribbed from Scorsese, making Wolf of Wall Street the natural leader of the pack, even if American Hustle may be more disciplined. The other feature, I think, that audiences respond to is period. These widescreen, semi-epic adventures tend to be set in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, sometimes all three. The production design, especially hair and makeup, is part of the fun. Matthew McConaughey's makeup and hairstylists went all out for Gold, Stephen Gaghan's Change the Names for Legal Reasons adaptation of the true story of the Brie X Gold scandal, one of Canada's great business stories. Gaghan resets the tale to Reno, but many of the true story's outlandish details are there on screen, and they make for some excellent twists and turns. McConaughey, 50 or so pounds overweight with a receding hairline and generally looking awful, delivers yet another earnest, endlessly entertaining, energetic and engaging performance, albeit one with too much mumbling. I think I lost a third of his lines. The storytelling is a little flabby too, but the many supporting actors are excellent, the design fine, and the source material absolutely deserving the movie. This could have been a great film. It's a good enough one.
We believe you're sitting on the largest gold find of the decade.
We're talking over $30 billion.
Perfetto! Sconosciuti!
Voi mi state dicendo che nessuno di noi ha segreti.
Ma che segreti ci vuoi avere?
Magari, ci conosciamo tutti a memoria.
Ok, allora facciamo un gioco. Mettiamo qua tutti i nostri cellulari. Poi, per la durata della cena, messaggi, WhatsApp, telefonate, leggiamo e ascoltiamo insieme. Tanto noi non abbiamo segreti, no?
Perfect Strangers, from Paolo Genovese, is one of those European romps that all take place in a single contemporary location, mainly around a table, and involve a lot of dialogue being spoken by locally popular actors that is sort of witty, sort of sexy, and potentially ponderous. The French and Italians both make this kind of film, and if successful, it's a great business model. If not, it can be stagey and cheap. Perfetti Sconosciuti, set in Rome among the genre's typically upper-middle-class, forward-thinking modern bourgeoisie, just sits on the right side of the equation. It pulls off its decidedly tricky and potentially gimmicky premise through a better-than-average script, fluid direction that keeps a single set visually interesting, and most importantly, an excellent ensemble who all play the rather ridiculous situation straight. That situation is this. At a dinner party for 7 old friends, one of them suggests, as a sort of truth game, that they all surrender their mobile phones to the centre of the table for the night, and that all of their text messages and emails are revealed, and their phone conversations had on speakerphone in front of the others. Naturally, and this is hardly a spoiler, Secrets are revealed, and they all realize they didn't know each other as well as they thought they did. This is a ludicrous concept, of course, but what high concept isn't? It skates by on very professional performances and a smattering of revelations that manage to subvert our expectations by about 10%. It worked massively on the large and quite mature audience I saw it with, who gasped, giggled, oohed and ahed at each new twist. It's an amiable 96 minutes that won't change your life, as much as it would love you to hurl your mobile device into traffic upon leaving the cinema. Ciao for now!
Sei troppo innamorato di mamma per capire quanto è stronza.
Le ho trovato un pacchetto di preservativi nella borsa.
Oddio, se capitasse Rosa.
Amore, Rosa compie 6 anni a giugno.
Thanks for watching Watch This. I'm CJ Johnson. Don't forget, you can comment on anything that you've heard about the episode today on our Facebook page at Watch This TV Show on Facebook. That's all one word, at Watch This TV Show. Don't forget that 2 of the films I have reviewed, Manchester by the Sea and Toni Erdmann, are both nominated for Oscars. The Oscars are coming up in the United States at 5 p.m. California time on February 26th. That's unless Trump cancels them. And in Australia, that's noon on Monday, February 27th. We'll make sure to do something very special on Watch This for the Oscars. Take care. You've been watching Watch This with CJ Johnson.
Watch that, watch this, and I'll die.